Welcome in to News and Views with Tom Lamprecht. The stories you've heard and the ones you need to hear.
I'm going to ask the public for 100 days to mask. Not forever, 100 days.
The elections in these 6 states, and particularly now in Georgia, are irredeemably compromised.
This election was a sham. It was an embarrassment to the citizens of your state.
Congress damn well better come together and deliver the relief that is so necessary.
We will not leave Washington until we get this done.
Your life, your values, your voice. This is News and Views with Tom Lamprecht on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome in. It is News and Views for a Friday. A lot of news for a Friday. We'll try to get to as much of it as we can within the hour. WNCT is reporting Naval Criminal Investigative Service is seeking information regarding an assault in a Camp Lejeune barracks. Officials say there's a $1,000 reward for information leading to the identification and arrest of person or persons involved. On November the 22nd at approximately 3:30 a.m., an unknown male entered a window in barracks HP 275 and assaulted a sleeping male Marine. According to officials, the suspect opened the door and allowed other male suspects to participate in the assault. The victim suffered serious injuries and will require extensive facial reconstruction. The suspect is described as a muscular white male with a blue T-shirt, long brown hair, no facial hair, and is about 5'10". A funeral was held this afternoon for the 26-year-old Nash County deputy who died following an on-duty crash on Thanksgiving Day. Nash County Deputy Jared Allison died December 1st after being in the intensive care unit at Vitan Medical Center in Greenville since the crash in Rocky Mount on November the 26th. On Wednesday, Allison was transported from the hospital in Greenville back to Nash County. Law enforcement officers across the state took part in the procession to bring home the deputy. Allison had just completed a traffic stop on US 301 near May Street when a motorcycle driving in a reckless manner passed him. He went to perform another traffic stop. He had his blue lights and sirens activated when the deputy's vehicle entered a nearby intersection and collided with another vehicle. The funeral took place at Englewood Baptist Church in Rocky Mount. Allison served with the Nash County Sheriff's Office for 2.5 years, was assigned to the office's traffic team. Allison also was a U.S. Army veteran, avid animal lover and rescuer. He leaves behind a wife and a 9-year-old son. A GoFundMe page has been created by members of the family. So far, more than $30,000 has been raised. If you would like to contribute, go to the GoFundMe.com page, type in Deputy Jared Allison, and you can contribute to that. Chucky Schumer has a simple explanation for Cal Cunningham's defeat in North Carolina. He came out with this statement yesterday. Failed Democrat candidate Cal Cunningham appeared to be doing well to unseat Tom Tillis. Cunningham trumped progressive candidate Erica Smith in the primary and held a solid lead in the polls. So to borrow a phrase from Hillary, what happened? While the progressive candidate who Cunningham trounced in the primary blames the Democratic senatorial campaign for what she called a pattern of interfering in primaries and often elevating moderates at the expense of progressive people of color, Senate Minority Leader Chucky Schumer had a far simpler explanation. Schumer said yesterday he couldn't keep his zipper up. Actually, that's what we said about 2 months ago when that all came out. Justice Paul Newby still is leading in the North Carolina Supreme Court Chief Justice race by about 400 votes. Incumbent Chief Justice Cherry Beasley, her campaign said in a news release yesterday they're demanding a hand-to-eye recount, which differs from the recent recount tabulated by voting machines. The request came in about 11 o'clock on Wednesday, was confirmed by the State Board of Elections. Basically, a recount allows Beasley to ask for this recount in 3% of the precincts in each county chosen at random. And if the hand-to-eye count changes the results of a precinct enough, the state board can call for a complete recount in that county. Again, so far, when they did the first initial recount, there was, I think, a couple of votes that changed, but not enough to change the outcome. And again, it's extremely close. I do not blame the incumbent Chief Justice campaign for requesting this. I mean, it's 400 votes out of over 5 million votes cast. So I would, if I was in her place, I'd be requesting the same thing. The Daily Wire is reporting Queen Nancy Pelosi said earlier today she will work with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to pass a smaller coronavirus relief package, which she deemed was now okay because, quote, we have a new president. What shifted, in your opinion, when the Problem Solvers Caucus had a much larger bill just a few months ago, a reporter asked Pelosi. You did not like that piece of legislation. What has shifted now? They're on board with this piece. What's changed? She responded, quote, perhaps you missed what I said earlier. Joe Biden committed to ending and crushing the virus and had a Build Better America initiative, Build Back Better. Pelosi snapped back. Quote, a vaccine answer to our prayers, an answer to our prayers, 95% effectiveness in terms of Pfizer and Moderna, and there may be others coming forward. That is a total game changer, a new president and a vaccine. Wow. She gave zero credit to Donald Trump. Zero credit. But Joe Biden came out yesterday and told us what his big plan was. If he's inaugurated, the day of inauguration, he's going to come out and say, you got to wear a mask for 100 days. Everybody's got to put a mask on. That's his big plan.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, when he said vaccine, did he mean like a totally different vaccine? Because I got confused.
No, he's talking about the vaccine that Donald Trump has come up with.
Okay, because I noticed he left the name out. He just kept saying vaccine. I didn't know if he had a generic version ready to go.
No. Okay. This is Queen Nancy and shifting all the credit away from Donald Trump and Operation Warp Speed over to Joe Biden. It's unbelievable.
But it doesn't surprise me either.
It's totally unbelievable that she can do this with a straight face. Of course, when she has as much Botox in her system as she has, I guess it's not hard to do with a straight face. Town Hall is reporting the House has approved federal decriminalization of marijuana, the Mary Jane. By a vote of 228 to 164, the House of Representatives has passed a measure to decriminalize marijuana and move forward on erasing nonviolent federal marijuana convictions. Now, listen to this. This is what the Democrats said. Democrats consider it a step to decreasing the racial disparities in the justice system. Think about what the Democrats just said. I mean, wait a minute here. What kind of racist statement is that? Decriminalizing the use of what is now an illegal drug will decrease racial disparities in the criminal justice system. So now I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but basically the libs just said if you are a certain race, you're more likely to be using illegal drugs. The bill, which was introduced by Kamala Harris and Jerry Nadler, now heads to the Senate. And it's not going to pass in the Senate, by the way. The bill, as reported by the New York Times, would remove cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act and authorize a 5% tax on marijuana. Say, at the end of the day, they had to pass it because it's a tax increase. Dems love to have any kind of tax increase they can get a hold of. They want to get as much of your money in their pockets as they can possibly do. The Times adds that the vote is historic. This is being the first time the Chamber of Congress has approved the decriminalization of marijuana, but they note the measure is all but doomed in the Senate. Republicans fumed this week the Democrats were prioritizing this bill over COVID relief for Americans hardest hit by the pandemic. Well, that's true. By the way, apparently there will be a new bill coming out for the COVID bill. It looks like there will not be any checks coming to individual families. But what will happen, apparently, is there will be more dollars, perhaps up to $300 billion for businesses. We'll see where that goes. Some 20 House Republicans showing dissatisfaction with the Justice Department's lax approach to national charges of voting fraud demanded today that William Barr open an investigation into the Georgia election. Citing video showing suitcases of ballots during the counting, the 20 lawmakers led by Mo Brooks of Alabama, and including incoming members, also urged Barr to issue a restraining order or temporary injunction to block groups suspected of registering illegal or invalid voters from upcoming Georgia Senate runoff election. Brooks, who has already pledged to challenge state electoral college votes in the House, said, quote, "The evidence is overwhelming. The Georgia's election process has been corrupted by voter fraud and election theft. The perpetrators of these heinous acts must be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest when appropriate." He cited a hearing in Georgia yesterday that drew concerns of ballot stuffing in order to throw the election for Joe Biden in a state President Trump was expected to win. This letter to Bill Barr, first paragraph, 2 pillars of a successful republic are election integrity and confidence in our democratic process. As Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger revealed Monday, his office is investigating multiple organizations attempting to register illegal and invalid voters in Georgia. As the Secretary of State's office lacks prosecutorial power, we ask the Department of Justice to investigate and prosecute this illegal behavior under federal law. It was signed, amongst others, there was some 20 signatures on it. Ted Budd of North Carolina, along with David Rouser, down towards Wilmington, were two of the signers of this letter to William Barr. And, William Barr is one of those who has come out and said, well, we haven't really seen any evidence. We had Mark Robinson. I love Mark Robinson. But we had him on yesterday, and at one point in the interview, he said, when I asked him about the voter fraud, well, so far we haven't seen any voter fraud that would hold up in court. But this is where, and I don't necessarily agree with Mark, although I'm not an attorney, although Mark isn't either, I don't think. But this is where the Department of Justice comes in. I mean, okay, there is I would call it evidence when you have a video of people pulling suitcases out from underneath a table in Georgia at the main place in Atlanta where they're counting the votes after they lied about a water pipe bursting and sending all the other observers home, and you pull out these suitcases and start counting ballots. That seems like pretty good evidence to me. And if there's any doubt, that's when the Justice Department would come in and start their investigation, wouldn't they? I mean, wouldn't that make sense? I mean, okay, if you want to say, well, is it going to hold up in court? Well, that's when you begin your investigation. And again, go back to the Russian dossier. I mean, there seems to be a whole lot more evidence for this than there was to take down Donald Trump and his impeachment. The Georgia Senate Oversight Committee held the hearing on Thursday on the massive election fraud in the state. Poll watchers were kicked out of the State Farm Tabulation Center on election night. They lied about the burst water pipe flooding the center. Never happened. Here is the audio. This is cut one, Clark. Here's the audio as the video is being described for the Georgia Senate Oversight Committee. I think this woman's name is Jackie Pick. She's narrating the video of what's going on as they pull these suitcases out from underneath this table.
At about 8 o'clock in the morning, we're going to roll this back and show it to you. There you go. So now they're going to start pulling these ballots out from under this table. This table, the black one, was placed there by the lady with the blonde braids at about 8:22 a.m. in the morning. So she put that table there. So the same person who's staying behind now, the same person who cleared the place out under the pretense that we're going to stop counting, is the person who put the table there at 8:22 in the morning. Yeah, I saw 4 suitcases come out from underneath the table. Yeah, upper right hand, you see the gentleman in the red. So he just pulled one out. So what are these ballots doing there, separate from all the other ballots? And why are they only counting them whenever the place is cleared out with no witnesses? Is the question. So these machines can process about 3,000 ballots an hour. You have multiple machines there, and they're there for 2 hours. So you do the math. How many ballots went through those machines in those 2 hours when there was no one there to supervise, to be present, consistent with your statutes and rules, to supervise the tabulation? We believe that could easily be, and probably is certainly, beyond the margin of victory in this race.
So since this came out yesterday, today, the Georgia governor, he alluded to this last night when he was on with Laura Ingraham. Today, the governor's come out and called for a signature audit of the ballots in Georgia. Now, what's interesting about this, he is going and appealing to the Secretary of State.
There you go.
To ask
so now they're going to start pulling these ballots out from under this table.
A signature audit.
This
and
table,
by the way, if you want to look at this video, it's on our website, newsandviewstom.com. We've got the video up
the
there.
lady
Clark's
with
got
the
it
blonde braids at about 8:22
8:22
a.m. in the morning.
For a signature
so
audit
she put that table
after
there.
this video came out. But what's interesting about this is Brian Kemp, the governor down there, he is appealing to the Secretary of State for this signature audit. But he can call for it himself. He doesn't have to go to the Secretary of State. He has got the power over the Secretary of the State to call for this. But so far, he's just, well, I'm doing all I can. No, you're not. And President Trump, who has been rather critical of Kemp's leadership, has come out and said, use your emergency powers. All you got to do is call for the emergency, and you know what? Let's check out and make sure that these signatures match up with the envelopes. Now, here's the big question, and this is what's going to happen, is they're going to come back and we don't have any envelopes. They're gone. There's nothing to compare them to. And at that point, you've got to toss the votes. And you either toss the votes and give it to Donald Trump, or the state legislature down there does not certify the votes. And eventually, when it gets up to Congress, Congress doesn't certify the votes. And it would be up to the state legislature of Georgia to assign the Electoral College voters for Georgia. This was not the only example of fraud in Georgia. This is someone with, I can't remember what this guy's name is. It's an attorney from the Trump legal team. This is cut to describing all the other examples of fraud taking place in Georgia.
2,506 felons voted illegally in Georgia. 66,248 underage and therefore ineligible people to illegally register to vote before their 17th birthday, when the law requires 17 and a half years old. At least 2,423 individuals to vote who were not listed as registered. 1,043 individuals to cast ballots who had illegally registered to vote using a post office box. 4,926 individuals voted in Georgia who had registered to vote after their Georgia voter registration date, thereby canceling their Georgia voter registration. 10,315 or more individuals to vote who are deceased by the time of the election. 395 individuals to vote in Georgia who had cast ballots in another state, which is illegal in both states. 15,700 individuals to vote in Georgia who had filed a national change of address with the United States Postal Service prior to November 3rd, 2020. 40,279 individuals to vote who had moved across county lines at least 30 days prior to Election Day and who had failed to properly re-register to vote in their new county after moving, also in violation of Georgia law. The petition for contest will include affidavits of more than 100 Georgia voters sworn under penalty of perjury, attesting to and confirming multiple violations of the Georgia Election Code.
So add them all up. Felons, underage voters, people voting in 2 states, dead people voting, add them all up. Now, recognize Biden leads Trump by approximately 14,000 votes. Add up all those numbers, and again, this is not even counting the fraudulent voting that we saw with the suitcases being pulled out from underneath the table. 143,895 votes is what they're talking about when you add up all those fraudulent votes. And they keep coming back and they're saying, well, you know, you're asking us to turn this election over, but, you know, there's not enough votes there to really turn it over. I mean, you're citing a few odds and ends, but there's not enough evidence there. How much more evidence do you need? When you have how many thousands of people that were dead voted? And again, it's only 14,000 votes that Biden leads in Georgia. And you've got a total of all these different categories. Yeah, that's the guy right there. Yeah.
And the list of numbers, too, right there.
Yeah. If you go to our website, Clark has this up. 2,056 felons voted illegal, 66,000 under 18, 2,423 weren't registered at all, 1,043 used a P.O. box, 4,926 voted past the regulation of the registration date. 10,315 died before the election. Now, I suppose some of those people voted early and then died before although I think in most state laws, if you die before the election takes place and you voted early, your vote doesn't count. I'm not sure what it is in Georgia. Unbelievable. 5618255. Love to hear from you. Voter fraud, is there enough evidence? I think so. 5618255. We got to take a time out. Stay with us. More to come.
Back to the show that really makes you think.
He is a genius.
He's all powerful.
He brought a kind of heat.
He could be the best.
Just don't hurt yourself, okay? More news and views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
All right, welcome back in. Take a look at your weekend weather forecast. Showers coming in tonight. The good news is they should be out of here by tomorrow morning's chance of rain overnight, 70%. Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 54. Clear tomorrow night, a low around 33. Sunday, sunny and a high near 51. So all in all, not too bad. Weather brought to you by our friends at the Ironwood Golf and Country Club. Voted best golf course in Greenville 2 years in a row. Ironwood Golf and Country Club boasts an 18-hole Lee Trevino designed course, full-service dining and outdoor pool, tennis, and much more. Our newly renovated 15,000-square-foot clubhouse is the perfect place to make new traditions with your family. For a limited time, join Ironwood and pay zero initiation fees. Call 252-752-4653 and find out what makes us the best of Greenville. 252-752-4653. 4653. Be a part of the best Ironwood Golf and Country Club. By the way, talking about what's going on down in Georgia, the Georgia House of Representatives today said hearings will be held next week about the November 3rd presidential election after concerns were raised about that video on election night, the suitcases containing ballots. House Speaker David Ralston stated that following the claims made by the Donald Trump team during Thursday's hearing, which was on the Senate side, by the way, he said it's imperative that we ensure free and fair elections that inspire confidence and certainty in the result. For that reason, I'm asking Chairman Blackman and his committee to act swiftly and aggressively and follow the facts wherever they may lead. What's interesting about this, though, on the other side of the aisle, they're saying, there's nothing wrong. Everything was fine. It was the most secure election ever. By the way, as you take a look at some of these other states, in Nevada, Trump lawyers have pointed out that 1,500 people who were dead cast ballots in Nevada. 40,000 voted twice in Nevada, and Biden leads there by about 33,000 votes. This is I think, very significant. The Daily Wire is reporting, follow the money. President Donald Trump's campaign and the National Republican Committee have raised hundreds of millions of dollars since Election Day. I mean, it sounds like they've raised as much money since the Election Day as they did prior to the election. The Trump campaign announced yesterday that the campaign has raised a combined $207.5 million since November 3rd. Over the course of October the 15th to November the 23rd, its affiliate and committees has raised over $495 million. And primarily, this money is being raised to fight the fraud. What does that say about where the American people, what they're thinking? And they're putting their money where their mouth is. 5618255. Let's go to Williamston. We have Mike on the line. Hi, Mike. Yeah, man. Good calling. Thank you. Good to hear from you. Well, that would be hard to pull off. I think what would happen before then, though, is McInerney, who was with the Air Force. He has come out and done an interview and basically same sentiment as you, but is basically saying, what has happened is treasonous, and Donald Trump needs to play every card he has that he can legally play to shut this down. And if it, I agree with that. I feel what you're saying. I wish I had a good argument, but I don't. If he does get in now, and by the way, there's reports out today that the Durham report, that'll be flushed down the toilet if Joe Biden gets in. So basically, everything that they have, and McInerney said this as well, all the corruption that has taken place with the Clintons, with the Bidens, anybody and everybody in between, with James Comey, is all going to disappear if Joe Biden gets in. And he made the point that is why they are so desperate to lie, cheat, and steal to get this election in their pocket. Because if oh yeah. Oh yeah, that is. Oh yeah, but Joe wants to let them all in. I mean, he's all worried about. We all have to wear the masks, but we're going to let all these illegals in. It's unbelievable. It is incredible. Great points, Mike. Thanks for the call. 561-8255. We got Scott from New Bern. Hey, Scott. Good to hear from you. I'm doing well. Good to hear from you. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I am so sick and tired of hearing liberals talk about disenfranchisement. They don't care less. I mean, I got to give them credit. They always come up with this bleeding heart liberalism that, you've got to do the mail-in balance because otherwise you're going to disenfranchise the poor and the minorities and the elderly and blah, blah, blah. Look, they've managed to disenfranchise an entire nation with the fraud that is taking place right now. And look, there's no other country on par with the United States that allows mail-in ballots. I mean, you go over to these Eastern European socialist democracies, they don't even do it because they know it's fraudulent. Oh, yeah. Well, Jimmy Carter, when he did his study 20 years ago, he came back and said, you got to have voter ID. And guess what? You don't need mail-in ballots. That's where the corruption comes. Yeah. I'd even say make it a national holiday. Give people off of work and paper ballots. You've got to be able. And look, in this day and age with barcodes and everything else, everybody ought to have a barcode. Every ballot ought to be accountable. There's this idea that you're just going to have a bubble with a signature and Joe Biden's bubble is going to be filled in and we're going to count that as a legitimate ballot. It is so, on its face, it is fraud. On its face, it is cheating. Well, I mean, you can go even more recent than that. I mean, just go the people in the military that have laid down their lives for our freedoms. If this is allowed to take place, they have died in vain, and unbelievable. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it, Scott. 561-8255. We'll get taken another time out. Stay on the line. We'll get to your phone calls. I promise. We'll be right back.
This is your Drive at 5 and ENC with Tom Lamprecht. Welcome back to News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
All right, welcome back in. Mike Pence is down in Georgia right now campaigning for the Republicans in that Senate race. By the way, the mainstream media is piling up the same manure again. The Hill is reporting that Warnock, he is the communist pastor who loves Fidel Castro and hates the police. According to The Hill, Warnock is leading Loeffler according to polling. Warnock leads Loeffler 52% to 45%, according to Survey USA. I know I shouldn't even report it. I shouldn't even give them the time of day. They have no credibility, zero credibility, and yet they're coming out and doing it again. 561-8255. Let's go to Ron in New Bern. Hey, Ron.
Hey, sir, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, look, this is their normal game plan. 4 days after the election, they start calling him President-elect Biden. This is such a travesty. If I wasn't such a man, I'd be crying every day. And it's Donald Trump, Mike Pence. They have done nothing to disenfranchise anybody in this country. They've done great. You can't tell me that this 80 million voted for Biden. Nobody wants law enforcement to be defunded. Nobody wants these football players to be kneeling during our national anthem. Nobody wants anything these people are peddling. And they want such ridiculous things. Then they want to disarm us on top of it all. And it is just ridiculous. They're using our Constitution against us. The conservatives, they're not going to think something's wrong with our voting system. This is the way they've been trying to get this blessed man for 4 years.
Absolutely. It's another chapter in the same book. Nothing has changed. Same old garbage. They keep peddling it. They keep shoveling it out. And
you've got some of these conservatives. I heard Geraldo earlier today. He said something about Trump being anarchist because he's not conceding. If just Republicans.
Well, I wouldn't call Geraldo a conservative, but
you're right. But if the Republicans would just stick with the poor man until he's got some time yet. He's got 10 days. If they would go to the wall with him to try to prove and try to just help them out as much as they could instead of this waffling that most of them are doing.
You got to hand it to the Democrats. Though I think they came out and they said, "Look, we're gonna take this thing, and it will be so big, and we will be able to do it with the media behind us, and we'll get enough people that have been elected to other positions to get them behind us, and nobody will ever believe that it's fraud. We'll just knock that narrative down." And we'll just be able to push the whole thing through.
And just keep marching forward, and they're trying to push it through. I pray, I hope to God they don't. There's still some time, but this cannot be allowed to pass. It's ridiculous. When you look at percentages, probabilities, an incumbent president, as great as he's done for the nation, COVID or no COVID, he would have been 90% electable, re-electable.
Oh, absolutely. This was just like Ronald Reagan's second term, where he just beat the pants off of Walter Mondale, and they knew if they didn't cheat, there was no possible way they could possibly win. They had to win, as they're just talking to Scott. If they didn't win, there were so many people that they're going to jail, and they are totally desperate. And, just remember this, and I say this in all sincerity. You said you're praying every day. I encourage all of our listeners to pray every day. Pray for our president. Pray that the truth would be revealed. And just remember some of the promises that the Lord has made. When we are weakest, he is strongest. And I mean that sincerely. You get down on your knees and you know what? We do not deserve it as a nation. We do not, as a nation, we have gone so far awry. We have just spit on the Bible and spit on its precepts. And yet I pray daily that God would give us the grace and the mercy that we need to allow this man to stay in office. You know, there's an article out today. Thank goodness. I mean, the Catholic Church is more conservative today than the evangelical church is. There's a story about how some Catholic priest has said, Joe Biden does not follow the Catholic precepts. He should not be given communion. Never. And, we need, you look at the Christians that surround Donald Trump and his administration, and, I just beg the Lord to allow them to have another 4 years. And
also, Mr. Tom, also you have they said if Donald Trump got 13% of the black vote, it was done. It was untouchable.
Yep.
And he got 12%, but he got 30% of Hispanic.
Yep.
And it
doesn't pass the smell test. You're going to tell me that Joe Biden got more votes than Barack Obama?
Yeah, and you're going to tell me Barack Obama got reelected and Trump didn't?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's a dirty shame, and I hope, like you said, sir, I'll just keep praying. I don't know what else we can do. I don't know. I swore to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Our worst threat is domestic. What do you do? Do you raise an army? What do we do?
Well, that's a great point. We are to protect from those that would attack us from foreign and domestic enemies, and right now the enemy is coming from within. Hey, we've got to take a time out. Thank you for the call. Stay with us. If you're on the hold, we'll try to get to your call. 561-8255. We'll be right back.
Back to news and views. Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back in. Ron, who just called us, said, what else can I do? Well, you can complain. You can complain loud. Whether or not you're from these states that are in question or not, you can call down to those state legislators and let them know that you think there's fraud taking place and you want them to investigate. This just in from the Epic Times as well as the Gateway Pundit. Arizona's legislative leaders are calling for an audit of Maricopa County's Dominion election software and equipment. Senate President Karen Fann and Speaker of the House Rusty Bowers today called for an independent audit of the Dominion software and equipment used by the Maricopa County in the 2020 general election. The two leaders, along with incoming Senate government chair and House Majority Leader, had numerous phone calls with members of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. A significant number of voters believe that fraud occurred, and with the number of irregularities, it is easy to understand why. Especially concerning are the allegations made surrounding the vendor Dominion. Maricopa County is where the largest number of fake Joe Biden ballots appeared. So, it's starting to hit the fan. That's the good news. 561-8255. Gary has been waiting patiently. Hey, Gary.
Hey, Tom. I see you made it through the election flu unscathed. Good job.
I survived. I did indeed. It wasn't that bad.
I heard you on the radio in the morning. Good job. I'm glad you're healthy.
Thank you, sir.
And by the way, tonight's show, easily in my book, is one of the top 5.
Oh, well,
Callers, it's a great show tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Something really troubles me about the Beasley newbie race, and I just want to throw this out. It's kind of a theory, and I want your reaction to this.
Okay.
Our state Supreme Court or elected officials are not lifetime appointments. Am I wrong?
They are not. Not for the state.
No, they're elected.
Right.
The thing with Sherry Beasley that really bothers me, she's going for, I think, her second recount again. Okay,
yes.
There's a pretty good margin. And if I'm looking at society as a whole and I'm looking at the left,
you got 30 seconds, Gary. 30 seconds.
Okay, every judge is trying to be an activist. Does she want to stay in the Supreme Court because she wants to follow the Constitution, or does she want to be an activist?
She wants to be an activist.
Because, quite frankly, she's a woman of color. The sky's the limit with her education and being on the Supreme Court.
Right. She wants to be an activist, but I will give her this. In her defense, it's a 400-vote margin. All I'm saying is if I was in her position, I would ask for the recount as well. It's not an entire recount. It's just a small segment, and unless they find something wrong. Hey, we got to run. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.